In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So today we read about Naaman, the commander of the Aramean army. He's a man respected for his military ability, and he suffers from leprosy. So the Aramean king sends Naaman to Israel to be cured by the prophet Elisha. But when Naaman arrives, Elisha does not come out to greet him. Instead, he sends a messenger to tell Naaman that he should wash in the river Jordan 7 times. Naaman is incensed because Elisha did not meet him face to face, and because it seems the difficulty of the cure did not equate to his great stature. He's also angry that his healing involves washing in a foreign river. As they say in Long Island, Naaman thinks who he is. Luckily, his servants have compassion and convince him to do as Elisha says. With their encouragement, Naaman manages to set aside his ego and is cured. Now, instead of the word ego to describe what is driving Naaman, Paul would use the word flesh. As he writes to the Galatians today, if you sow to your own flesh, you will reap corruption from the flesh, but if you sow to the Spirit, you will reap eternal life from the Spirit. And so until his servants step in, Naaman, a man very conscious of his position, is thinking in terms of flesh rather than spirit. Now, Paul's ethics is divided into these two approaches, flesh and spirit, or ego, what we would say, and I would say holism. By holism, I mean consideration of the entirety of the sacred creation. And it is the end goal of Christianity that we be able to think in holistic terms. But there are several more steps between egoism and holism, at least according to a psychologist, Lawrence Kohlberg, and I find his discussions very helpful, and particularly helpful these days. He describes 6 stages of ethical development, each one with a more expansive view of responsibility from me all the way to the whole world. Kohlberg divides ethical development into 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. And each of those is comprised of 2 stages, giving 6 stages in all. And ideally, we work our way up through these stages, starting at the beginning as a baby, all the way up to 5 or 6. Though few really make it to the 5th or the 6th stage. Most remain in conventional ethics. And in fact, some may never even make it beyond pre-conventional ethics. And I think it can be very helpful to think in terms of these 6 stages when trying to understand the opinions of those who might differ from our own. I'm sure you have experienced that lately in the past few years. I would like to bring some healing to that. The first pre-conventional level is common in children, but like all levels, it is also found in adults. The first stage of this level is wholly self-focused. The actor is not concerned at all with the effect of her actions on others, but solely with obedience and punishment. You can understand that in a very small child. And the worse the punishment, the more morally reprehensible the act is assumed to be. So people at this stage do not question the punishment itself, but believe that innocent victims are guilty to the extent of their suffering. There's also a lack of awareness that others' viewpoints may differ from one's own viewpoint. Have you ever met someone who simply could not understand that you do not like the same things that he does? Be it some kind of sports, or some kind of music, or a type of phone. People are so precious about their phones. At that moment, he is functioning at this first stage. Another characteristic of this stage is deference to superior power. Little baby doesn't think, I don't think my parents are doing this right. Deference to power. Those who hold power must be good, or they would not hold power. This can result in adults in blind patriotism. My country is never wrong. An attitude that facilitates abuses. Those at this stage who witness abuses of power tend to be passive. They don't even see them as abuses. A friend of mine who was the victim of horrible child abuse told me that his parents used to beat him mercilessly in the front yard and even slapped him down the sanctuary steps of St. Mark's Episcopal Church. I won't tell you what diocese. Neighbors and church members looking on just assumed, he said, that he must have done something really bad in order to warrant such punishment. At this stage, the lines between discrete events also tend to become blurred. It all gets lumped together, good and bad. All victims of power are lumped together and assumed to deserve whatever they get. So the sight of children crowded together in detention centers with insufficient care does not move a person at this level. Might makes right. And any criticism at this level is intolerable. It's evil in its very nature because power is good. So to criticize power is bad. And if you do criticize something, then that can precipitate a temper tantrum, a last-ditch effort to gain power, to be right. That's what children are doing. One achieves stage 2 of Kohlberg's model when one looks outside oneself a little bit, sees one's parents, not much more than maybe brothers and sisters, but mostly parents, and starts realizing that there are subtle differences between one's inner group. And if there are different viewpoints among those who hold power, one reasons, then there is no right way. And this justifies the manipulation of others to serve one's own interests. Simply put, dad can be played off of mom. A person at this stage is no longer punishment-driven so much as self-interest-driven. In other words, the person asks, what's in it for me? The needs of others are only considered in as much as they impact one's own interest. Greed is the norm. Narcissists get stuck at this stage. They do not grow beyond it. The second level is conventional morality, what most people have, and it too has two stages, most adults have. It too has two stages, both of which are quite typical of adolescence, but again can be found in adults. One enters the first of the two levels of conventional morality when one realizes that one's own well-being and that of one's peers actually affect each other. They're mutually dependent. So the scope is widening to not just parents, but to peers. This stage is thus driven by the desire for good interpersonal relationships. Approval of others is sought. People wish to live up to the expectations of others, at least within their immediate sphere, in order to be considered good. Intentions are also more important because maintaining that group harmony is important. So people will just say, well, their intentions were good. They meant well. They don't want to say, no, I disagree with you on that. That would shake up the vote too much. This is the peer pressure stage where people are terrified of standing out. Being different is the worst thing imaginable, and those who are perceived as different are often punished in order to demonstrate how much the one punishing values conventional wisdom. This is the much talked about bullying. It's essentially just scapegoating, but unfortunately not only teenagers make examples of those who do not accord with the conventional wisdom of the day. Many adults dislike those who are perceived as different. And this indeed had a role in the crucifixion of Christ. Of course, there can be conflicts within conventional wisdom too. Intelligent people don't always agree. People can disagree. And so, when one realizes this, it forces a widening in one's vision to include not just one's immediate peers, but society as a whole. We start thinking about our entire culture. And awareness of these potential conflicts within conventional morality forces us to enter the second stage of conventional ethics, which is driven by the desire to maintain the social order. One obeys laws in order to keep that social structure, the status quo, is valued. The rules are the rules, and compromise is unacceptable. This is how the Pharisees are depicted in the Gospels as rule-bound, uncompromising. Now, when irrational fears get involved at this stage, maintaining social norms may validate what we could call an unfair distribution of justice. In other words, the wider our view of morality becomes the wider the application of scapegoating. Instead of individuals being made to pay, entire groups are viewed as threatening the social order and are therefore persecuted. This happens in every age, in every culture. Although the rates of disobedience in our own culture, the rates of disobedience among youth is about the same across all ethnicities, white, black, Latino, Asian, you wouldn't know it. Black and Latino youths are incarcerated far more frequently than whites, even for playing hooky or running away from home, by judges who view them as an inherently greater threat to the social order. The same is true of drug use. A white man addicted to drugs needs rehab and compassion. A black man addicted to drugs is a threat to society and must be put into prison and punished. Unfortunately, once we incarcerate people, they tend to become violent, so we create criminals out of runaways and addicts. The third level is post-conventional morality, and like the other levels, it has two stages as well. The first of these stages is based on the social contract with individual rights, so that no individual is completely oppressed and has to follow all the rules. We achieve this level when we cast our gaze internationally, and we recognize that every culture has a different social contract. The rules that support the social order, moreover, sometimes conflict with particular individuals' needs. So compromise is a necessity at this level. Rules are useful, but adaptable and alterable, as Christ demonstrated when he did such things as healing on the Sabbath. And of course, the Pharisees were there, pointed out, right? The law at this level is ever evolving. And indeed, the theory of democratic government is based on this level of reasoning. Democratic institutions are designed to serve the greatest good of the greatest number, with protections for minorities. And that's one of the stated purposes of the Supreme Court, to protect the rights of the minority against the tyranny of the majority. It's in democratic theory. The final stage of Kohlberg's model is driven by universal ethical principles. One enters this level when one not only recognizes differences among cultures and individuals also, but one is forced to see the world through the eyes of others. And that is a gift, an often painful gift, that not many people get. People at this stage have a set of universal ethical principles that they apply to all people. For them, laws are valid only to the extent that they accord with whatever this universal justice is. And I would say that Christ refers to this universal principle as the kingdom of God, and he will tell people you are closer to the kingdom of God, you are farther from the kingdom of God. He tells his disciples to offer their peace to others whom they encounter. If you are welcomed, you are to say, the kingdom of God has come near to you. But whenever you enter a town and they do not welcome you, go out into its streets and say, even the dust of your town that clings to our feet we wipe off in protest against you. Yet know this, the kingdom of God has come near, the kingdom of God has come near to you. This contravenes conventional ethics. You would never toy with the status quo like this. You would make nice, you would be nice. Where one would never defy the social order in such a way as Christ is encouraging his disciples to do. Few people achieve this final stage, as it's just difficult to see the world through the eyes of others. And it entails being willing to risk exile, imprisonment, or in the case of Christ, death, for the sake of such universal principles as love, human rights, justice, equality. And to those at the conventional level, people at this post-conventional level can be mistaken for those at the first level, pre-conventional, because of their refusal to follow conventional wisdom. They just see rule breakers breaking the rules. We differentiate between the two levels, however, the pre and the post, by determining whether someone is acting out of selfishness or out of commitment to higher moral principles. Now, when people at the conventional level see those in other societies or in the distant past who are post-conventional, they may see them as heroes. For example, those who broke the law to protect people against Nazis. We would say, oh, definitely those are heroes, right? But they will still consider post-conventional people in their own society and in their own time to be traitors. Edward Snowden is a good example. he holds the universal principle that spying on one's citizens is unacceptable anytime, anywhere, and he paid the price for it. So we have gone through 6 stages of awareness: of self only, of one's immediate family, one's peer group, one's culture, other cultures, and of the whole, with 6 corresponding ethical stages based on punishment avoidance, self-interest, good interpersonal relationships, maintenance of the status quo, a social contract with individual rights, and universal justice. Now, people tend to push towards a higher stage, not through reflection, but in times of conflict, when things disturbing happen. It forces us to grow, and only with difficulty. And fear can always cause us to regress, to withdraw to prior stages. In addition, people may process different kinds of problems at different levels, depending on the problem itself. And finally, all stages lower than the highest achieved tend to influence any decision made. Even someone focusing on the highest level is going to think a little bit about me, about my family, about my peers. Those are also in the mix, so to speak. The point is that when people at one stage brush up against people at another stage, sparks may fly. And we must recognize that all are doing their best. Not all have had the benefit of experiences that pushed them to a higher level. Realizing this can help us to love rather than to judge others. And we can also plant seeds by providing challenges to people's current thinking that do not make them fearful and risk driving the person back to a lower level, but just help them to see that there's another way. I try to do that in my sermons, to challenge you gently and lovingly. But it is a difficult thing to do because people at different levels hear different things. Though I'm told that the Buddha was able to preach to everyone and everyone hear what they needed to hear. I'm not there. When interacting with others, it can be very helpful to think in terms of these stages when disagreement arises, as we ourselves work towards building the kingdom of heaven. Amen.